Welcome to Part 4, the grand finale of our 48 Laws of Power exploration. This is the mastery stage. Having learned to survive, influence, and dominate, we now focus on making your power permanent and unable to be attacked. These laws, 37 to 48, teach you how to build an aura of power, avoid fatal mistakes, and remain untouchable, the one who can't be easily challenged. Let's dive in with clear examples and some quotes from Robert Greene's book to illuminate each point. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. At the mastery level, appearance is power. A dramatic gesture or grand visual can imprint your authority in people's minds more than any logical argument. Greene notes, striking imagery and grand symbolic gestures create the aura of power. Everyone responds to them. Stage the spectacles for those around you, full of arresting visuals and radiant symbols that heighten your presence. Throughout history, successful leaders have used pageantry and theater to awe their subjects. Louis XIV, the Sun King of France, famously turned daily life at his Palace of Versailles into a series of splendid rituals and performances, from his morning waking laver to evening banquets. Courtiers were so busy marveling at the king's luxurious style, elegant dances, and golden halls that they didn't question his absolute authority. The symbolism, sun imagery, elaborate throne, etc., convinced everyone of his quasi-divine status. Another example, Roman generals returning from victory would parade through Rome in triumphs, a massive celebratory procession with captured treasures, exotic animals, and the general dressed as a god. These spectacles cemented their glory in the public's eyes and conveniently distracted from any political maneuvers they were pulling. You can apply this law on smaller scales, too. Want to make an announcement impactful? Turn it into an event with visuals and fanfare. Launching a product? Present it with showmanship. Think of Steve Jobs unveiling Apple products on stage with dramatic reveals. He created spectacles that made tech look exciting and made him look powerful as the genius orchestrating it all. The point is to go beyond plain words. Use symbols, ceremonies, and visuals to speak for you. A well-chosen emblem or a dramatic act will be remembered and often revered. Meanwhile, the real work, or any tricks behind the scenes, stays unnoticed by the bedazzled crowd. This law underscores the saying, image is everything. Mastery of power often means you're part leader, part showman. And when you put on a good show, people will follow you anywhere. Law 38. Think as you like, but behave like others. An untouchable power player never triggers the mob's antipathy by appearing alien or arrogant in their beliefs. This law advises, hide your unconventional ideas and blend in outwardly. If you make a show of going against the times, flaunting your unconventional ideas and unorthodox ways, people will think that you only want attention and that you look down upon them. They will find a way to punish you for making them feel inferior. It is far safer to blend in and nurture the common touch. Share your originality only with tolerant friends and those who are sure to appreciate your uniqueness. Essentially, don't flaunt your radical differences publicly. History's free thinkers learned this the hard way. For example, the astronomer Nicholas Copernicus formulated the revolutionary idea that the Earth circles the sun, but he published his work only at the end of his life, because he knew that openly defying the prevailing religious worldview could provoke outrage and punishment. Indeed, not long after, Galileo faced the Inquisition for championing the same idea. Copernicus avoided personal harm by behaving like a normal church official for most of his life, keeping his heterodox thoughts mostly private. The wisdom here is that people are by nature suspicious of those who seem to reject the common values. If you wear your differences on your sleeve, be it ideology, lifestyle, or even flaunting wealth among the poor, you invite envy and attacks. However, if you conform in style and manners, people leave you alone, giving you freedom to think and scheme as you wish behind closed doors. Think of it like camouflage. On a lighter note, if you join a new company with a very strong culture, it pays to first observe and mirror that culture, its dress code, its buzzwords, until you're accepted. Once you have an unshakable position, then you might introduce your unique flair. In Greene's words, the only time it is worth standing out is when you already stand out securely. Until then, blend in. This doesn't kill your individuality. It just hides it from those who wouldn't understand. Keep your creative or dissenting thoughts within a trusted circle. Meanwhile, to the broader world, smile and nod with the crowd. By the time they realize you were different, it will be too late. You'll already be in power, beyond their reach. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. This law is about controlling the emotional climate of your enemies, and even allies, to throw them off balance. In short, if you stay calm while provoking others into anger or overreaction, you gain the upper hand. Anger and emotion are strategically counterproductive. You must always stay calm and objective. But if you can make your enemies angry while staying calm yourself, you gain a decided advantage. Picture a pond. If the waters are serene, fish hide calmly in the depths. But stir the waters, and the fish become confused, rising to the bait. Likewise, an opponent who is thinking clearly is hard to defeat. But if you rattle them, irritate their vanity, or fuel their fears, they'll likely make mistakes. Many military commanders have used feints and taunts to make the other side charge recklessly. One classic example comes from ancient China. General Sun Bin faced a formidable opponent, Pang Huan. Sun Bin intentionally retreated in a way that insulted Pang's pride, making Pang think Sun Bin was weak and afraid. Enraged and overconfident, Pang Huan chased Sun Bin into a narrow ambush at night and was destroyed. Sun Bin literally stirred up Pang's emotions, then caught him off guard. On a personal scale, suppose you have a competitor at work who is always trying to one-up you. Instead of getting mad, you plant a subtle barb that you know will get under their skin, maybe a joking remark about their known insecurity. If they lose their cool in response, raise their voice in a meeting, or send an angry email, they'll look unprofessional, and you'll look composed and superior by contrast. The key is you remain the steady one. As Greene notes, nothing is more infuriating to an already angry person than your calm smile. It shows you are in control, and they are not. Do exercise caution. Don't provoke someone who can destroy you, or in a context that could backfire badly. And never let yourself be baited in the same way. Mastery means mastery over your own emotions, too. If someone insults you, remember Law 36. Ignore it, or respond with icy calm. Meanwhile, identify your rival's emotional triggers, see Law 33 on weaknesses, and use them to lure them out of their game plan. In sum, keep your waters clear. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. This intriguing law says that what is given free is often a trap or has hidden strings. A master of power prefers to pay full price and thereby stay free of obligation. Greene states, what is offered for free is dangerous. It usually involves either a trick or a hidden obligation. What has worth is worth paying for. By paying your own way, you stay clear of gratitude, guilt, and deceit. In essence, beware of something for nothing. Have you heard the phrase, "There's no such thing as a free lunch"? If someone offers you a free lunch, they likely expect your time, support, or information in return. By paying for your lunch, you owe them nothing. On an everyday level, consider promotions that promise free perks but lock you into subscriptions, or a business partner offering, "I'll do this for free." Likely later they will call in a favor. A person in power position should avoid accumulating these unseen debts. Additionally, Greene suggests displaying strategic generosity yourself. Instead of accepting freebies, be lavish when it suits you. Generosity can be a power move. It builds your reputation and puts others subtly in your debt. If you pay for every meal, others feel a sense of obligation to you. You despised the free lunch, but maybe you provided one. Being open-handed with money, when you can afford it, is a sign that you're confident, and you become a magnet for power. Conversely, chronically cheap or greedy people isolate themselves and miss opportunities. It's better to occasionally spend money to gain influence or freedom than to save a penny only to become beholden to someone. A dramatic metaphor. The Trojan horse was the ultimate free gift. The Trojans thought they got a magnificent offering at no cost, but hidden inside were Greek soldiers who destroyed them. So, if an offer seems too good and costs you nothing, examine it twice. It might carry the seeds of your downfall. In summary, value independence over apparent bargains. Pay and own your destiny. Accept free handouts, and you might become a pawn. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. If you take the place of a legendary figure, or replace someone who cast a long shadow, beware. Comparisons will be harsh. This law advises, forge your own path and identity. Do not get lost in the legacy of your predecessor. Greene writes, what happens first always appears better and more original than what comes after. If you succeed a great man or have a famous parent, you will have to accomplish double their achievements to outshine them. Do not get lost in their shadow. Establish your own name and identity by changing course. We see this so often. The son of a beloved king is often deemed a disappointment. The CEO following a visionary founder struggles to win loyalty. The sequel to a hit movie seldom gets the same glory. Why? Because people's memory of the first is gold-tinted. The solution is to differentiate yourself boldly. For instance, Alexander the Great's successors knew they couldn't be the next Alexander. So each carved out separate kingdoms and identities. One became Pharaoh of Egypt, starting a new dynasty. Another, a king in Mesopotamia, etc., rather than trying to rule the entire empire exactly as Alexander did. In more modern terms, think of Apple after Steve Jobs. Tim Cook, who took over, did not try to become Steve's clone on stage with crazy turtlenecks and product revelations. Instead, he eventually put his own operational, mild-mannered stamp on Apple, focusing on supply chain and incremental improvements, a different style. At first, people inevitably compared him to Jobs, but by not attempting to imitate Jobs and by leveraging his own strengths, Cook came to be respected in his own right. In contrast, those who do try to continue someone else's legacy often appear as copycats or second-rate, and public sentiment turns against them. A historical anecdote. King Solomon followed his father King David's rule in ancient Israel. David was a legendary warrior king. Solomon wisely did not try to emulate the warrior image. Instead, he became known for wisdom and grand building projects, carving a new legacy as a peaceful, wise monarch rather than living in David's military shadow. By the time people realized, Solomon was known for something entirely different and great in its own way. So if you find yourself filling big shoes, consider changing the style, location, or focus of your efforts to reframe the comparison. Perhaps even criticize or distinguish from your predecessor gently. Law 42. Strike the shepherd, and the sheep will scatter. Trouble in any group can usually be traced to one person instigating or leading the descent. This law says, identify the source of the problem and eliminate or neutralize them, and the rest of the opposition will collapse. Trouble can often be traced to a single strong individual, the stirrer, the arrogant underling, the poisoner of goodwill. Do not try to negotiate with them. Neutralize their influence by isolating or banishing them. Strike at the source of the trouble, and the sheep will scatter. It's a very pragmatic approach seen often in politics and warfare. For example, in a notorious slave rebellion in ancient Rome, Spartacus was the leader who united thousands. The Roman legions realized that as long as Spartacus lived and led, the rebel slaves were fierce and organized. Eventually, once Spartacus was killed in battle, the remaining slaves scattered or were easily defeated. The head had been cut off, so the body of the revolt died. In corporate life, if there's a group at work undermining your project or authority, usually one vocal person is egging the rest on. Maybe it's a veteran employee with a grudge, or a new hothead rallying others. Deal directly with that ringleader. Either persuade upper management to remove that person, or find a way to expose their misconduct, or isolate their influence, transfer them, assign allies to dilute their clique. Without that central instigator, the group's energy fizzles. Greene's point is that trying to appease or reform that strong troublemaker is futile. They thrive on conflict and won't change. It's more effective to remove them from the equation entirely. Another angle. If you're facing betrayal, often it's one mastermind with others just following. Take out the mastermind, and the followers lose direction. This law might sound ruthless, but it can actually prevent greater harm. It's like removing a disease patient zero to stop an epidemic. Historical leaders often exiled or executed the single lord or minister who was rousing barons against the throne. Once that person was gone, the rest either lost heart or could be reconciled. Use with caution in personal realms. Obviously, you can't execute someone socially, but you can perhaps transfer a problematic team member or distance yourself and others from a toxic friend who stirs drama. Without the gossip monger, the friend group becomes peaceful. So identify the center of opposition and deal with them decisively. Their followers will either wander off or come back to the fold once the agitator is absent. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. In mastery, the wise power holder prefers to win people's affection and belief, rather than ruling by force or fear alone. Because forced followers will betray or resist you eventually, but genuinely devoted followers will support you even in tough times. Soften up the resistant by working on their emotions, playing on what they hold dear and what they fear. Ignore the hearts and minds of others, and they will grow to hate you. This law advocates inspiration and empathy over intimidation. For example, Abraham Lincoln, during the U.S. Civil War, understood this principle. After victory, many in the North wanted to punish the South harshly. Lincoln instead spoke of reconciliation, appealing to shared humanity. When chided for being lenient, he famously said, "Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends?" By winning the hearts of former enemies, he aimed to turn them into allies, a far more stable solution than ruling them by force of arms, indefinitely. In everyday situations, this could mean figuring out what motivates your colleague or boss deeply. Do they crave recognition, security, a sense of purpose, and aligning your request or direction with that? Rather than ordering an employee to do something, show how doing it will benefit them, or praise their past work and express confidence. Pride and trust win their heart. If someone is resistant, maybe they fear change. Acknowledge their fear, empathize, then paint a hopeful picture that addresses it. Essentially, appeal to fundamental emotions like loyalty, love, pride, fear of loss, etc. to sway people. Also, lead by example with kindness. A gesture of care, like taking a small hit for the team, can win over even skeptics. History's beloved leaders, the ones people willingly die for, all understood this. They communicated in terms of values and hopes, not just commands. On the flip side, if you ignore people's emotional needs, they might obey outwardly, out of fear or necessity, but resent you inwardly. Over time, that resentment builds into sabotage or revolt. So to be untouchable, cultivate genuine rapport. One practical tip: personalize your approach. Learn individuals' names, interests, and aspirations. Make whoever you're dealing with feel understood and important. Once you have their heart, they like or respect you. And when you understand their mind, they understand your logic or vision. They will follow you anywhere. That loyalty is the strongest shield. You become very hard to dethrone because people want you in power. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. One of the subtlest ways to gain the upper hand is to mimic your opponent's movements, words, and attitudes so precisely that they become disoriented and powerless to figure you out. Greene explains, "The mirror reflects reality, but it is also the perfect tool for deception. When you mirror your enemies, doing exactly as they do, they cannot figure out your strategy. The mirror effect mocks and humiliates them, making them overreact." There are a few mirror tactics rolled into this idea. One is mirroring for empathy. By reflecting someone's desires and values, you gain their trust. The other is mirroring to mock. By reflecting their actions or words back, you make them self-conscious or angry. Let me tell you a story. Marie Mancini, an 18-year-old aristocrat in 17th century France, fell in love with young King Louis XIV. She wasn't conventionally pretty and had many rivals. Instead of trying to compete openly, Marie learned everything about Louis, his favorite books, his ideals of romance and heroism. She then mirrored his interests, discussing chivalric tales he loved, sharing his romantic views, treating him like the grand hero he wanted to be. Louis XIV was seduced by this mirror of his own psyche. He felt an unprecedented understanding and fell deeply in love with Marie. He even promised to marry her, unheard of for a king to a baron's daughter. Marie's mirroring gave her immense power over Louis. Only heavy political pressure forced them apart. On the hostile side of mirroring, consider a situation where a co-worker always criticizes you in meetings. One day, you mirror their body language and words. If they raise an eyebrow, and cross arms, you subtly do the same. If they use a certain sarcastic phrasing, you later use the same phrasing about their idea. It can unnerve them, as if holding up a mirror to show their own rudeness. Often, they'll get flustered or angry, making them look childish. Meanwhile, you remain cool, effectively giving them a taste of their own medicine. The mirror can thus neutralize attacks. Your enemy finds no weakness to exploit because you're just reflecting them. Or it can bring someone into complacency. They see themselves in you and so trust you. In any case, it's a powerful form of deception and psychological warfare. Generally, people love seeing their beliefs and gestures echoed. It's flattering, and they hate being imitated in their flaws. It drives them mad. Both responses give you control. A master power player might even create an illusion for enemies to mirror, leading them into a trap. Start by practicing subtle mirroring to build rapport or to throw off those who mean you harm. It's almost like a magic trick. The mirror shields you by hiding your own strategy while disarming the other side. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. People in general are resistant to drastic change. It makes them insecure. Even if you come to power to make improvements, do so gradually and in tune with tradition, or you may spark chaos or rebellion. Greene notes, everyone understands the need for change in the abstract, but on the day-to-day level, people are creatures of habit. Too much innovation is traumatic and will lead to revolt. If change is necessary, make it feel like a gentle improvement on the past. This law is especially relevant for any leader or new authority. History's reformers often faced backlash not because their ideas were bad, but because they pushed too abruptly. For example, Emperor Joseph II of Austria, 18th century, introduced a torrent of revolutionary reforms, from abolishing serfdom to religious freedom, all at once. The conservative Austrians, overwhelmed and threatened in their traditions, resisted fiercely. Many of Joseph's decrees were overturned after his death. In contrast, Emperor Augustus, Octavian of Rome, after winning power, styled his revolution as a restoration. He kept old titles and customs, called himself princeps, first citizen, instead of king or dictator, and only gradually introduced changes to government structure, always packaged as returning to old virtues. The populace accepted Augustus's new order, the Roman Empire, largely because he grounded it in familiar terms and paced the changes. The strategy, if you must change things, invoke the past. Say, we're reviving the spirit of our forefathers, or keep some old rituals so it feels continuous. That way, the change feels less shocking. Also, implement reforms one step at a time. If a new CEO tries to revamp every department in a month, employees panic and morale plummets. But if she phases changes in, starting with quick wins and communicating that we're keeping what works from our history and carefully updating what doesn't, people come on board. In your personal life, if you're trying to change a family tradition or friend group dynamic, ease into it. Perhaps introduce change as an addition to the old, not a replacement. In short, evolution, not revolution. Gradual change lasts. Sudden change causes shock waves. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. Ironically, one of the greatest threats to someone at the top is others' envy. If you come off as too brilliant, successful, or without flaw, you might unwittingly stir resentment and plots against you. Greene warns, appearing better than others is always dangerous, but most dangerous of all is to appear to have no faults or weaknesses. Envy creates silent enemies. It is smart to occasionally display defects and admit to harmless vices in order to deflect envy and appear more human. We've all felt that envy when someone seems to have everything going for them, a part of human nature, unfortunately. For example, in ancient Athens, there was a statesman Aristides, so renowned for his integrity that people started to resent hearing him always called Aristides the Just. In fact, during a vote to exile a citizen, an illiterate voter who didn't recognize Aristides asked him to write Aristides on the ballot. Aristides asked, "Had the man been wronged by Aristides?" The man replied, "No, I don't even know him. I'm just tired of hearing him called the Just all the time." Aristides calmly wrote his own name down and was exiled. This story shows how excessive praise or perfection can breed ill will for no rational reason. The remedy is to appear more human. Show a relatable flaw or share credit generously. For instance, if you're very wealthy, don't incessantly flaunt luxury. Occasionally dress down or joke about yourself. If you're the smartest in the meeting, maybe deliberately ask for advice or highlight an area you're learning. Let others feel superior in that moment. Greene even suggests injecting harmless vices. Perhaps you pretend you love junk food or binge silly reality, trivial things that make you seem less like a flawless machine. Politicians do this often, sharing stories of clumsy moments or humble beginnings to avoid looking pompous. The only ones who can get away with a truly perfect image are either divine figures or those safely in the grave. But for us mortals, seeming too perfect paints a target on our back. By displaying humility and fallibility, you remove that attack. It's a delicate balance. You still want to appear competent and strong, just not infallible. Think of it as adding a touch of earthiness to your Olympian stature. Then people admire you and feel comfortable around you. They'll say, "She's incredibly talented, but so down to earth." A compliment that signals you've avoided envy and earned genuine goodwill. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. Knowing when to stop is a rare skill that separates those who consolidate power from those who waste it by overreaching. As Greene puts it, the moment of victory is often the moment of greatest danger. In the heat of victory, arrogance and overconfidence can push you past the goal you had aimed for. And by going too far, you make more enemies than you defeat. Do not allow success to go to your head. Set a goal, and when you reach it, stop. This law echoes the timeless wisdom of quit while you're ahead. History is littered with cautionary tales. The most famous is Napoleon Bonaparte. He achieved extraordinary victories and essentially ruled Europe. If he had stopped and consolidated after, say, the Peace of Tilsit, 1807, he might have remained emperor for life. But Napoleon pushed further, invading Russia in 1812 in pursuit of total domination. This overreach led to a catastrophic defeat. He also provoked a massive coalition against him. In trying to grasp more than his initial goal, he lost everything and was eventually exiled. Similarly, in ancient Greek myth, Icarus flew too high when he only needed to escape, causing his downfall, a metaphor for not knowing when to stop. A practical tip: set predefined limits in your plans. For example, an investor decides, "I'll sell when my stock doubles," and actually sticks to it, rather than getting greedy for triple and then losing it all in a crash. Or a leader of a movement who, after achieving the main reform, declares victory and disbands, rather than shifting to more extreme demands that erode public support. Knowing when to stop is hard, but mastery of power requires the discipline to say, enough. This preserves your victory as a lasting one. As the adage goes, leave the party while everyone's still having fun. Don't wait until the mood has turned. Law 48. Assume formlessness. Finally, the ultimate law. Be as adaptable, shapeless, and unpredictable as water. This crowning principle of power suggests that rigidity is your enemy. If you become too fixed in your ways or too easily defined, opponents can grasp you. But if you remain formless, you are untouchable. Greene summarizes, by taking a shape, by having a visible plan, you open yourself to attack. The best way to protect yourself is to be as fluid and formless as water. Never bet on stability or lasting order. This law is almost philosophical. It tells us that no law is absolute, except the law of change. Those who hold power longest are those who evolve, who improvise, who bend like a willow instead of breaking like an oak in a storm. Think of legendary survivors. Queen Elizabeth I adjusted her policies and persona, depending on the shifting alliances in Europe. Sometimes warlike, sometimes conciliatory, sometimes the Virgin Queen, other times almost one of her people. In contrast, rulers who insisted, "My way is the only way," often found themselves toppled when times changed. In military history, Mongol armies were known for unexpected tactics, sudden advances from another direction. They were formless in strategy, never letting the enemy predict where they'd strike. Modern example. In business, companies like IBM or Apple have repeatedly reinvented themselves, changed shape, as technology evolved, whereas firms that stuck stubbornly to one product or model faded. To assume formlessness in your own life, stay flexible. Don't declare eternal allegiances or irrevocable goals publicly. Keep your options open. If you're too openly committed to one plan, enemies can craft or counterplans. Instead, remain elusive, perhaps work on multiple fronts, so no one is sure what you'll do next. Bruce Lee's famous quote encapsulates this. Be water, my friend. Water flows. It takes the shape of any container. It can crash, or it can drip. If you achieve that kind of nimbleness, you'll meet whatever challenges come without being broken by them. Importantly, formlessness also confuses your opponents. If they can't figure you out, they can't hit you. So as you reach mastery, remember that staying powerful is moving power. Keep changing, and you'll never become an easy target. In a world where everything changes, embrace that change before it forces you. Adapt or perish is the natural law, and the powerful are always a step ahead, morphing to survive and thrive in each new era. We've now navigated all 48 laws of power across 4 tiers, from basic survival tactics to the art of mastery. Robert Greene's book has shown us a mirror of how power operates in real life, often counterintuitive, sometimes amoral, but undeniably insightful. Whether you choose to apply these laws or simply recognize them in play around you, knowledge is power. As you've seen, the laws are interrelated. Mastering power means knowing when to be cunning and when to be bold, when to charm and when to intimidate, when to stand out and when to blend in. Use these ideas wisely and ethically, or at least guard yourself against those who might use them on you. As Greene would say, power is a game. Now, you have the full rule book. Go forth and play it with your eyes open. Good luck and stay powerful.